What is my desert island electronic music gear? Let me show you.
Freebie.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Freebeat, where I post new music-related content every single day, so if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Let's get started. Today's patron shout-out goes to Galactic Tapes. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to help out the channel, just head over to patreon.com/freebeat. So, desert island synth or electronic music gear, drum machine, whatever you want to call it. This is a concept that is really intriguing to me. Basically, if you're unfamiliar with it, which I'm not sure there's anybody out there at this point that isn't, imagine you're stuck on an island and you can only have one piece of electronic music gear with it. What is it and why? Now, really quick, before I reveal what mine is, some of you have already guessed it, and by how tightly I have the camera pulled in, that really narrows the options, I'm just realizing now. But before I tell you what mine is, I just want to talk about why I think this is a pretty healthy exercise for us all, especially when we're kind of experiencing GAS, which gear acquisition syndrome, the concept that we always want something new. We always need something new for our setup. My setup will be complete if I just get this. We all fall victim to it, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, but it is something to work on. I think playing the Desert Island game really is healthy because it lets you step back and look at all of your gear on an individual level, and you can really start to rediscover maybe some pieces of equipment that you've ignored in the past, or maybe some features that you forgot that gear had. Maybe something has fallen by the wayside, and in examining all of your gear on an individual basis, you rediscover something that you really remember loving and you just kind of forgot about. And once again, you have newfound inspiration to start working with a piece of gear. So you're stranded on a desert island. You can only bring one piece of gear with you. Well, let me show you what my honorable mentions would be. The first one would be the PO32 Tonic. Now, this is a pocket operator from Teenage Engineering, of course. Very, very small. It is an excellent drum machine, and I absolutely adore the stock sounds on it, not to mention the fact that you can upload other sounds to it. The reason I'd take this with me is because even with those stock sounds, I feel there is almost unlimited potential to what they can do. The form factor is also great. You can take it absolutely anywhere, so you're not, shoehorned into a particular location. Even if you're trapped on an island, this would be pretty fun to have with you, I think. You're constantly making beats. Some might argue that the PO33 KO would be a better choice because, you could sample everything around you and turn that into a track. But I'm just really inspired by the PO32 Tonic and its stock sounds. I think that if this was my only piece of music gear, I could still have a really good amount of fun with it, and, probably not get bored too easily. The downsides, being that you only get 16 patterns, you're stuck to 4/4 time, you get 4 tracks of drums, and that's basically it, 4 different columns, and if you're alone on an island, you probably can't swap out the sounds. But that being said, this would be a pretty fulfilling option for me. Next would be the Electron Model Cycles. In fact, this would have been my number one pick, except I made myself pick something that was battery powered, so I considered this cheating. Now, the Model Cycles is an incredibly powerful piece of gear. You guys know that I absolutely love this thing as a compositional tool. It is basically unrivaled with, that great Electron sequencer in there. You get 96 patterns per 96 projects. 6 tracks of FM goodness. It's a drum machine, it's a synth, and it can make so many amazing sound effects. This thing is a real powerhouse, and it would have been my number one pick, except that currently there's no way to battery power it. I know Electron has teased a battery handle for both the Model Cycles and Model Samples, but so far we haven't seen it. So this guy takes honorable mention spot number 2. And that means that my desert island piece of electronic music gear is the Teenage Engineering OPZ. Now, this probably doesn't come as a surprise to a lot of you. You guys know how I feel about the OPZ. I think it's absolutely incredible the amount of power that Teenage Engineering has packed into something that's the size of a TV remote. This does have an internal battery that you can charge via USB-C. It gives you about 4 to 5 hours of battery. It's pretty darn good, and it's essentially a miniature DAW in a box. You get 8 audio tracks and then 8 tracks to manipulate the audio, basically. You get kick, snare, cymbal, and a sample track, and then a bass track, lead track, arpeggiator track, and a chord track. You get 10 different projects. Each of those projects can have up to 16 patterns, and a pattern can be up to 8 measures long. You get parameter locks, you get sampling. There's an onboard microphone to actually sample with, or you can use a line in. It's got a master track, it's got a performance track. There's 2 different effect sends tracks. There is just so much that this guy can do. And I do have to say that if I were alone on an island by myself, the Teenage Engineering OPZ would be the one piece of gear I would have to have with me. The track you're hearing right now was actually written and arranged and recorded entirely using the Teenage Engineering OPZ. It's called Mystery Hour off my OPZ album titled In Over My Head. If you'd like to check that out, just hit the Bandcamp link in the description of this video. But yeah, the Teenage Engineering OPZ would be my desert island synth. And now in doing this little experiment, I have come to realize that as much as I use the OPZ, I don't use it enough. It's been a long time since I've actually plugged in a key step and really composed on this thing, and I miss doing that. I think it's time that I start working on a follow-up project, even if it's just, you know, a couple tracks to In Over My Head. I think it's time to start working on the sequel. I know I've got a lot of other stuff on my plate, but working with the OPZ is something that I find really fulfilling. And in jamming around with all my different pieces of gear in preparation for this video, I feel like I really rediscovered my love for the OPZ as a compositional device. I highly suggest that you guys try to play the Desert Island game with your own electronic music gear collection. You might learn something new or remember something that you thought you lost. Let me know what your Desert Island synth or piece of electronic music gear is in a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this one. If so, be sure to leave a like on the video. If not, you can leave a dislike. That's okay too. Doesn't hurt my feelings, just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Thank you so very much for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.